Peach was mad. Actually, she wasn't mad. She didn't know how to feel about her current situation. The princess was rescued by her savior and love interest, Mario, once again. While she would normally be ecstatic to see the short plumber, the events that occurred on the moon made things more than awkward for the both of them. After returning to the castle, she stumped up the steps and into her room, threw clothes into her suitcase, and walked out as happy as she could force herself to look. She then walked past the resting plumber and directly to her tiara-shaped companion on the Odyssey, a silly smile plastered on her face. "Who's up for a vacation?" Sitting in the Odyssey across a sleeping Tiara, she sighed. While she often looked at the moon for a source of comfort, all it did now was a reminder of his failed proposal. Well, it felt more like their failed proposal. Personally, she felt she had the right to deny a marriage proposal if she wasn't interested or ready. And that's what she did. She denied both of them, fuming over both of their idiocy. She wasn't surprised at Bowser. The guy would do anything to take her hand in marriage. But Mario? Thinking about it made her livid. Mario was a lot of things, but an idiot wasn't one of them. He should have taken a better approach to her even after Bowser pushed him out of the way. Pushing and fighting over her was not flattering in the least. It was just embarrassing for all three of them. She groaned silently and got up, figuring pacing would help her think clear. She and Mario were an item since her first rescue in space, and she loved him very much. She and Mario were an item since her first rescue in space, and she loved him very much. She knew he loved her back. And puppy, damn it. Must you target every small thing while I'm recording? Just delete that part. She and Mario were an item since her first rescue in space, and she loved him very much. She knew he loved her back with everything he had. People who knew him well enough noticed how head over heels he was for her and how eager he was to make her smile every chance he got. Though what had seemed to be a flawless relationship had officially had its very first slip-up. She was angry. She was absolutely fed up. He had no right to go and mess with their perfect, beautiful relationship with something as stupid as fighting someone she had never even thought about giving any of her time to. She gasped as she stopped walking and looked in front of the mirror. Her face was red and hot tears stung. She gasped as she stopped walking. She gasped as she stopped walking and looked in front of the mirror. Her face was red and hot tears stung her eyes and cheeks. Her face was red and hot tears stung her eyes and cheeks. How dare she? It was true. He really did wait on her hand and foot, but it was because he never wanted to disappoint her. She remembered speaking to him on one of their dates about her dream wedding and how happy she would be if he would finally propose to her. She remembered rambling for hours on end about it, and how he barely responded, only nodding and grunting. She remembered leaving the place and seeing how deep in thought he was. The only reason he panicked was because he feared of disappointing her. He panicked because of me, she muttered in horror, her eyes staring back at the mirror and into her soul. The mirror reflected who she really was, a somewhat spoiled princess who threw a fit when she doesn't get her way, or gets upset, and yet still had the audacity to blame her boyfriend for her being upset. She quickly turned away from the mirror, not sure if she could take any more of the truth. She then sat back into her chair, no longer feeling a variety of emotions. Instead, a single feeling overtook her entire demeanor: guilt. Though it wasn't entirely her fault, she felt guilty enough for her to realize that she had many things to be guilty for. Most of things now being apparent on her so-called vacation, yet one of the things that stung the most out of them. Redo. Though it wasn't entirely her fault, she felt guilty enough for her to realize she had many things to be guilty for. Most of things now being apparent on her so-called vacation, yet one thing stung the most out of all of them. I forgot to tell him thank you. She forgot to thank him for rescuing her. She forgot to thank him for all of the gifts he had brought her on their dates. She had forgotten to thank him for the tennis lessons and various sport teachings. She had forgotten to thank him for comforting her on long nights that never seemed to end. She forgot to thank him for loving her. Outside, she could hear the waterfall splashing into the river below it, and the dinosaur snoring softly near the barking chain chomps. She wiped her newly formed tears and stood up, walking in front of the mirror. The mirror reflected who she was going to be, a gentle yet strong princess who realized her mistakes and was willing to change for the better. With a nod and a gentle pat on Tiara's head, she walked out of the Odyssey, the sun reflecting her beauty and change in heart. With a nod and a gentle pat on Tiara's head, she walked out of the Odyssey, the sun reflecting on her beauty and change of heart. The mirror reflected both.